Hi, the title of my paper is How Christianity Strive in China Under Hostile Regime. I would like to begin with a quote from the Cultural Revolution, a political movement that had brought horrible memory to the older Chinese generation. The quote read like this: There's no God, there's no spirit, there's no Jesus. We are atheists. We believe only in Mao Zedong. We call on people to burn Bible, destroy images, and despair religious association. The Cultural Revolution was launched by Mao in 1966 to top his political enemy. It induced a decade of chaos where students formed into bands of what they call Red Guard, ran around destroying anything related to the West, capitalism, religious or traditions. Religious communities were harassed and persecuted seriously, and all the church structure are destroyed. Nevertheless, Christian communities survived underground, and some experienced a major upswing after the end of Mao era. In the late century, 20th century, Christianity has experienced colossal growth, especially in countryside and among young people. These are the two research questions the paper is trying to address and answer. First, what are the main factors that enable Christianity to take off in China in its 20th century, despite all the hardship and hostile regime it faced? And second, did the communist government, and in particular the Cultural Revolution, hurt or help Christianity in China? Here's the outline of the rest of the presentation. First, I'll give an overview of some of the major events of the Christianity in China. And then we'll go through some of the factors actually contributed to the growth of Christianity at the end of 20th century. And then we'll answer the last question is whether the communist regime and the Cultural Revolution, how does it impact, whether it help or hurt Christianity. Christianity has experienced ups and downs in the 20th century, beginning with the Boxer Rebellion, which has killed over 20,000 of Christians and almost all foreign missionaries. Nevertheless, the Boxer Martyr brought more missionaries coming to China from the West. The number of foreign missionaries reached 8,000 in 1920, and the number of Protestants grew from 100,000 from the beginning of 20th century to 270,000 in 1915. That period is regarded as a high point of the foreign missionary age in China. Nevertheless, they died down quickly as the political environment changed, especially in the May 4th, in around the end of the first quarter. There's the rise of the Chinese Communist Party and all the civil conflict between the Chinese National Party. And then the Second World War, China was invaded by Japan. A lot of people was killed. And in 1950, the Communist Party gained power, and their atheist government, they reject and persecute Christians. And after the Cultural Revolution, the communist government, although they try to be a little more open, but they fear, basically they want to control religions by forming state, control churches, and they prohibited and dissolved any other church gathering or community outside the state-controlled churches, and they persecute all the leaders that did not allow government control, and effectively eliminate all foreign influence and connection. Here, the factor that contribute to the rise of the Chinese church in China, even under persecution or tight monitoring of the Communist Party. First, is the rise of church and theological leader who are local that can lead a lot of people, and then also the development of independent Chinese church that are a lot associated with the West, and also the house churches, and also that the spiritual vacuum created after the Cultural Revolution. So the first rise of Chinese religious leader. So before the 20th century, the operation of the churches in China was dominated by a foreign ministry. All the Chinese convert, Chinese Christian, they are mostly participant. Nevertheless, that situation changed, partly because of the establishment of a school, both religious and non-religious, by the Protestant community, that educate a lot of Christian, and also bring up the education level, and also a lot of people are trained to the ministry. Um, so here I provide a list of those people, either they are leader of the church or the leader of the community that are Christian, and then also evangelists that bring many people to Christ. And the second factor is the development of the independent Chinese church that are led by Chinese. They include, for example, True Jesus Church, the Jesus Family, the small flocks, the spiritual gift societies. So these are the churches developed by Chinese that are really independent from the West and more suitable for the people. And in particular, people start to see Christian religious as not as like Western only religious, but it's truly a Chinese religious. So that also bring a lot of differences from the perspective of different people. Another factor is the home church movement. So by the name, basically, this is the church community. They have their Bible study, prayer, communion, and all sorts of meeting in a house or home of the members. This actually started in the beginning of 1920, when actually some of the Christian leaders mentioned in the last slide, they broke away from their traditional denomination and formed a grouping. And so this allowed them to start new churches, community with minimal resource, without the need of a building that costs a lot of money. And in addition, they used to emphasize strong evangelism and relationship, and because the way Chinese interact, that actually is helped them to spread the gospel. And in addition, when the Communist Party was in power and they disallow all the public meeting, the whole church can continue to meet secretly. In particular, in the rural area, it's very hard for the government to completely eradicate them. So the last factor is the spiritual vacuum created after the collapse of the Cultural Revolution. So the collapse of this communist ideology created a void that left many Chinese people staring into a spiritual vacuum. And the economic boom has brought about prosperity, but life is governed by materialism, and they need true value, purpose, and meaning. And in particular, Christianity has a head start because even though all the religious activity was prohibited in during the Cultural Revolution, or some of the home-based church can still operate in secret. And in addition, all the some of the theology developed by Chinese Christian like Ni start to falling back from Taiwan and the U.S. to China, and this also create a help to fill the spiritual void. So the last question is whether the communist government or cultural revolution actually help or hurt Christianity. It's hard to judge objectively. Here I list some of the impact of this. First, the communist government, an atheist government, not only hostile to Christianity, but all religious community that could be able to somehow hurt their governing. So in the sense that basically also give Christianity a new chance to reach out all other people. And in particular, as Christians suffer and being persecuted along with all other people, people start to see that Christianity, that's it's a foreign religion, but a Chinese religion, and in particular, the elimination of foreign influence in all this year enabled the Chinese church to develop its own flavor that are independent of the West and suitable for Chinese. And thus, God always used persecution and suffering to purify His people and bring up faithful servant and bring revival.